Hi, YouTube, and happy Thanksgiving. It's been a long time since recording my last video because I've been bogged down with quite a bit of work, publishing papers and so on. But I have a real treat to share with you all tonight. What we are looking at is a very, very unique, historic, and quite unusual, frankly, folding bike. This is the British Strida Mark I, built somewhere between 1987 and 1992, either in the UK or in Portugal. And this was actually the master's project of an industrial designer named Mark Sanders. He designed this between 1983 and 1985 when he was a master's student at Imperial College London. His dream was to create a replacement for walking, a bike that would replace walking and be important in last mile commutes. The idea that someone might use this thing to bike 1 to 5 miles to a train station or to a bus stop, get it on the bus, get it off the bus, and then continue 1 to 5 miles to their destination. Something really light, easy to maintain, comfortable, easy to ride, and so on. He thought about a folding bike shaped like an X, but he eventually decided on this A-frame triangular bike that he would call the Strida and sell between 1987 and 1992 when the worldwide, I think, recession led to the company temporarily shutting down. But later, it still would be sold, many more versions, with more aluminum pieces and nickel-plated pieces for longevity and strength and so on. And even today, you can get a Strida. You can get all different models, even some that have 2 and 3 speeds, not through the rear gear, but through special bottom brackets. There is a KS3 bottom bracket in the Strida Evo, which you can kick back multiple times to switch between 3 different gears. There's even, thus, a 3-speed Strida that you can get. Unfortunately, I've heard there's issues with reliability of the KS3. I don't know too much about that. The F Neo GTRO, I guess, is another alternative, but neither of those would work on this Mark I with its simple one-piece Ashtabula crank. Thank goodness, not a cothered crank that's mounted inside a plastic box. Let me just get that on the other side of the post there, as there's no kickstand. Anyway, so let me explain a bit how I got this. I was looking on Facebook Marketplace and I saw for $40 an industrial design professor at UC was selling the Strida, which I later found he had obtained in Boston and taken with him on a plane to Cincinnati, calling it his personal mobility device. Truly, it was that. It's a real amazing piece of engineering, and when I first got it, I thought, just to get this for historical value or to resell it to someone who's more interested. I thought maybe the ride on this would be weird or harsh or something. It would be hard to steer. Indeed, when I first tried riding this, I was sitting so far forward in the seat, and mind you, that's the highest this seat will go, that every time I would steer, I would also feel my knees smacking up against the handlebars. But later I got the hang of it. I moved backwards. And since then, I've ridden 55 miles, mainly on rural country roads with lower speed limits, on this bike. I've been really surprised with the performance. The quality of the ride's amazing. It'll absorb bumps for a couple reasons, honestly. I think the joints, especially this joint here at the front between the bottom tube and I guess the front steering tube, seems to absorb shocks well, or maybe the joint at the back. I just don't feel bumps right up in the seat the way I would in other folding bikes. The second reason I think that is, second and third, is that the seat isn't putting all its weight on a single seat post that would be going, in that direction on a regular folding bike. And then the third reason is I believe this saddle is sprung, not sprung here necessarily, but sprung on the inside. I think there's some springs that hold the saddle, making it more comfortable than I expected. So I'm honestly really impressed with it. It's a very lightweight bike. It's aluminum and weighs 10 kilograms or about 22 pounds. Some of the other features are a pretty nifty, interesting looking rack back here, which is at an angle instead of being flat like on my Dayhan Speed D7 or Huffy Touriste, which, helps things sit in there. And of course, you could use bungee cords to hold them up. This also doubles as a kickstand for when it's folded. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you how this folds in this video. I don't have someone else here to help. The wheels are 16 inches in diameter, like a Brompton. They're plastic, and you'll notice the fork comes only on one side. So it's very, very easy to take the tires off and replace the tires or replace tubes. Replacing tubes on this took me half an hour or less, although probably, with practice on regular bikes, people can get pretty quick at that. The only challenge was holding this up so the tube would inflate evenly around the rim. What I just hit was this nice mud guard here, which is great, for the rain. I have ridden this not in the rain, but in some moisture. There's a rear reflector there. When it was moist and the streets were wet, and it performed fine. And probably the most unique feature of the bike that you are getting a great glimpse of right now is the belt drive. Instead of a chain or a shaft, it has an automotive timing belt, which supposedly will last 50,000 miles, but honestly, with getting a stone stuck in the teeth, as I've heard, or other kinds of debris, it's more likely to last 3,000 or 5,000 miles. Having a belt instead of a chain or a shaft makes this virtually maintenance-free. You don't get any grease on your legs. You don't have to grease it up. Very, very easy to maintain. It seems to be good, but there's one issue with steep hills that I'll get to in a bit. There's the front wheel. Again, you can see it's incredibly easy to get the tires and tubes off because it's a one-sided fork. Another feature that you could probably see a little bit before this, and maybe better on this side, are the drum brakes. Those perform really nicely. They are classic British Sturmey Archer brakes. They're really responsive and effective. They're the originals. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about, one-piece Ashtabula crank, pretty high gearing, as you can see, high gearing for flats mainly. Oh yeah, so that's another important point. This is a one-speed bike, but philosophically it's really a four-speed bike. You can climb up a hill slowly, accelerate on a flat, coast down a flat, because at some point going downhill, really you can't pedal any faster than it will go by itself. And then when you're climbing up a steep hill, you can just walk it. So there's walking, climbing up a hill, accelerating on flat, or coasting. Really, you have to coast when you're going downhill and use the brakes to keep this thing from getting hard to control. As far as steering, there's one issue with this, and probably why I was able to get it pretty inexpensively, is there's a crack in the top joint, which is really common on these models. There's the front steering tube, a ball joint from the rear tube here that fits in a socket. You might think, that could be really dangerous, but even after 55 miles, I haven't had any bad luck. And, with who knows what could happen after I said that. But to be fair, the ball joints is held in pretty nicely, and the previous owner put in an additional bolt there, which I'm really grateful for because it's helped that hold together. Despite that, I'm getting a replacement out of ASA filament, a 3D printed replacement. It'll be white with black Strida letters embedded in it. And that should do the job nicely, and who knows, maybe last another 30 years. There's some nice grips on the handlebars to park this when it's folded up. There's these little cloth extensions of the handlebars and basically you brake and then would use your other hand to hold the brake in position and keep your bike propped up. I installed this headlight here that I had on another bike long ago. I needed to put in a shim of tubing in order for it to not slip around too much. And I also glued it in with some contact cement so it doesn't come off while riding. As you can see, that's quite bright and good at twilight. There's a bell on the front that's been effective in scaring away deer and probably more importantly, alerting pedestrians. That really scared the crap out of deer. And let's see what else. I guess that's pretty much everything. I won't be able to show it to you folded, but I can say essentially what you do to fold it is first open up that joint. Yeah, open up. There you go. Like that, like so. And then put it back. Yeah, so basically you lift that joint up and then you pull back. There we go. Yeah, that just secured nicely. Yeah, so you lift up this bottom tube and then pull the front tube back behind on the left side, and you can clip the wheels together. And then I'll stand on the rack with that little plastic piece acting as a kickstand. And I do bike with full shoes and socks. On the front and rear there are some reflectors. I need return reflectors to the rims. But overall, a really nice classic bike with a shockingly good ride. I've been thinking about what I should call this, and one name that came to mind is the Cyclops because of that single headlight. But you could also call it the Triangle of Death, the Devil's Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, what have you. For such a devilish little bike, an amazing ride, revolutionary piece of history, and I think underappreciated. I know there's many complaints about this, and I think I mentioned the steering felt quite twitchy at the beginning, but if you want to get around, once you understand the handling better, you sit a little further back in the seat, even at my height, 5'10". It's quite comfortable, and you could get around pedestrians easily, as this is intended for. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video about the Strida. Please comment, especially if you have some experiences riding this yourself, below, and like and subscribe as always. Thanks for watching.